You know, I love bow fishing for carp, but there's some areas of the state that we bow fish in where the water temps might not be warm enough for the carp to be around. At that point, we're usually stuck shooting at small long-nosed gar and goldfish. You're talking about a long-nosed gar target that probably is about that big around, and goldfish that are, you know, this by this. And I thought, is there a way that I can do this better? Is there a way that I can do this more efficiently and put more fish in the boat? So I've had some ideas about how to make a better arrow, how to build a better bow fishing arrow specifically for small fish. So stick around and let's go build something. Alright, so looks like I'm building some arrows, but what are we going to attach to the end of those arrows? Well, first of all, I want to point out that I'm using 3 different types of arrows for a specific reason, and that is so that I have potentially three different stiffnesses or 3 different spines of arrow to do this experimental project with. Standard fiberglass, we've got a yellow jacket shaft that is fiberglass and carbon, and we have a muzzy carbon shaft that is also fiberglass and carbon because it's fiberglass filled and carbon on the outside. So I had an idea. What if I could take something that had multiple barbs and attach it to the end of a bow fishing arrow to up my odds on small fish? So I was looking around, and there's all these inexpensive fishing spears out there. Stuff like this, and stuff like this. Now, hold on. I know what you're saying. You're saying, Quinn, you can't do that. They're going to be too heavy. It's too much weight. I know. I agree with you on that, which is why I cut these shafts shorter to give them better stiffness to handle the extra weight. Will it be enough? I don't even know at this point. I'm just playing around, making a project, trying something new. But this is my cool idea for sticking those goldfish in small gar and putting more of them in the boat. So I had an idea. What if we take a look at how a hunting arrow balances compared to how a bow fishing arrow balances compared to how one of these new project arrows balances? Let's do that next. I've always felt that a standard bow fishing arrow was not optimally balanced. I've always felt like they need more weight out front than what they currently have. But as you can see here, the balance points are actually fairly close. The carbon arrow that I shoot off of my hunting bow, and then a solid fiberglass shaft with a standard point. This happens to be an interlock point. The balance points are actually fairly similar on that. So what happens if we try to balance one of our newly designed bow fishing arrows here? I'll bet you that looks better to you than what you thought it was going to. I thought that the balance was going to be much more weight forward than that on these. Let me see if I can get this guy to stand here. Just about. Okay, so there they are, balanced out. And we're only talking a couple inches difference. It's really not that big of a deal. I thought for sure that these were going to be a lot heavier on the front end, and I would not be able to have any shaft on this at all. But that's not the case. This here shows me that there's hope that I can shoot these arrows without them having too much flex and without them being too heavy on the front end. So the next thing we need to do is find some water where we can do some test shots with these and see if they fly correctly off of a bow. You know, one of the things that happens sometimes when we're going after these small fish is we will shoot an arrow at them and hit the fish but not penetrate it. You'll see that fish get knocked sideways in the water, but for whatever reason, maybe the point's not sharp enough anymore from hitting rocks and sand, or it's just not a direct enough hit that that light body of that fish just moves. So I'm hoping that, you know, a multi-barb setup like that, smaller diameter, will more easily penetrate these small fish. The other bonus to using a head like this is when we do stick these small fish, we tend to blow the arrow all the way through them. This would allow us a chance to not over penetrate and get back to shooting quicker, because we wouldn't be trying to get that arrow back through the fish or having to cut the line and retie in order to be ready for another shot. Alright, so the next step in this process is to test the arrow flight off of a bow. My wife Brandy and I are going to go bow fishing today, and we're going into an area that has small fish, specifically goldfish. We bow fished here last weekend, and as a family we probably shot between 30 and 50 arrows at goldfish, and Brandy's the only one who got one. But the goldfish that she got wasn't orange, it was brown. So going to try to get her an orange goldfish, and I'm hoping that one of these new arrow setups will make that an easier task to accomplish. So stick around. We're going to hit the water for some more bow fishing adventure to test out this new idea. Alright, we're rolling out on another bow fishing adventure. Looking forward to trying out some new equipment today. The weather is really kind of poor. Not sure what we're going to find, but today's the day that we have time to do it, so we have to take advantage of that. It's 51 degrees right now with a feels like temp of 45 with the wind. In contrast to that, it was 92, 93 degrees last weekend when we were over here, and last weekend the water was too warm for good action. I'm hoping that this cold front coming through cools the water and might actually increase the fish activity. We'll see. I don't know. The wind is really terrible. There's a small craft advisory over here out on the bay. We're not going to go out there, but we are going to play around, drive some ditches, launch the boat into one where we saw a bunch of goldfish last week, and see if we can put these new arrows to the test. Well, we've been driving around and looking at some of our spots. We did just see a few carp. Tempting to get out and shoot, but it's awfully cold right now too, so we're just kind of enjoying the view. We're going to drive this ditch down. We did see some goldfish in it last weekend, so we're hoping we can get a glimpse of some orange and give an arrow a try here. There's an eagle. I'm going to take my arrow down there and give it a test. Do you want to come down?
You got the sticker arrow on.
That's a big carp. I'm gonna go down there and stick it, B.
Oh.
I'm gonna go right down there. Do you wanna come down?
No. Go.
Okay. Missed. It's not flying right.
No.
All right, I'm just relocating the truck to catch up with Brandy here. After 2 shots with the white fiberglass arrow, with terrible arrow flight on both of them, I'm going to say that I got to switch to something stiffer. So I'm going to go immediately to the Muzzy carbon shaft because I think it's probably stiffer than the Yellow Jacket. And we'll see what kind of performance we get out of that. All right, we'll do a test with the carbon arrow here to see how it flies. Oh yeah, that flew better. Wish there was a fish to shoot at right here.
Well, I shot the only fish in this ditch.
Well, good effort, good try. Try shooting it a little farther. Oh yeah, that's gonna fly great. Look at that with the seaweed on it. It's like the, what's that called? The Triton?
King Triton's trident.
Trident, that's a trident. See, with the seaweed.
Oh, mermaid.
Yeah. Come right here, right in this hole. There he is. Nice try, B.
Turn.
Yeah.
I was leading him.
Goldie's out here.
Oh yeah.
And the big carp's right next to it. Too high, B. Hopefully he sits there. I'm going to try the trident on him. Too low. Here's your Goldie. He just showed back up. Aim low. Ooh, almost be a good shot. Right. Got one. There we go. There we go. Come on, baby. Show me that holding power. There it is. Look at that. Just like that. Heck yeah. Check that out.
Nice. Oh, it stuck good.
Yep. I was still high on that shot even. There's a whole group of them here, B. There's like 5 of them in this group. They were right on me, and I drew, and then all of a sudden they just slipped into the weeds and disappeared. All right, so now the next test is getting it off the arrow. Okay.
Just like that.
A little shake. I think one could probably fight off of this, but this was designed for small fish, and I just shot a 8-pound carp with it. All right, we're getting ready to launch the boat here. We left a few fish back in that drain because we're hopefully going to find some in this ditch, big ditch that we're putting the boat into. We'll see. We're going to boat up a couple miles to where the fish were last weekend and hopefully get some goldfish opportunities and maybe even some more carp. I'm going to test fire this right now before we get too far up here so that I can see how it's going to fly. Lily pads would be a good target. Little nose down. Didn't fly quite as smooth on that shot as the carbon.
Can't you just swap the heads out?
Oh, sure, I can.
So you can put that head on the black arrow?
I can. So if the black arrow is the one that's going to fly good for me, I can play with different heads on it. Oh, I need a target out there a ways.
Oh, okay.
It's a little nose down. I'm gonna try it though. I'm gonna try shooting it at some fish and see what happens. I'm in him. You want to give me a backup so we can make sure this holds? Oh, my reel's messed up. I'm out. See why I need to have some sort of rod on here?
I thought you put one on it.
I can't. The threads won't take it.
Oh.
That's why the one that I tried to use, it was like trying to cross thread when I tried to put it on. So, well,
I was trying to get to a safe spot where I could
yeah.
like an arrow.
No, you did. You did a great job. That's what you do, because you can't shoot from up here if I'm across from you.
Right.
So there's a scale. Ooh, look at it. I lost a barb.
Huh. Interesting.
Maybe that's not very well built. Couple scales on them, but these barbs are smaller on this than the fork I was shooting on the other one.
The trident?
Yeah. And by the looks of it, they're just press fit into there. So,
I think your other arrow is a better design. This seems to have a lot of things that are working against you. It's a little top heavy. It's got that bulk, causes a big splash going in.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
that one flies really well.
it does. It flies better than this one. I just want to shoot them both at a goldfish if I get a chance to, because that's what I designed them for, was small fish. I didn't really expect it to hold in a carp, but I figured I'd give it a try.
We're not seeing many goldfish today.
Not yet. That goldfish structure is 2 miles from here.
2 miles?
Yeah. I'm in him. No, I'm not in him. Alright, that's enough for that arrow. That's enough for that one. Look at it.
Wow.
So I was in him pretty good, but that just doesn't have any holding power. So, that's my last shot with this type of arrow. Now I know I build it for small fish, but we're not seeing many goldfish to shoot at, and I just can't pass up a carp. So I got 4 scales on my barbs here, but that just has no holding power. I feel like, as Brandy said before, this flat surface is really limiting my penetration into the water, and one of these barbs already pulled out. So I'm going to switch back to my other style of head. That's what I'm going to go with for the majority of this experiment. Alright, I'm going to try a test shot or two. The yellow jacket with the trident head. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that flies great.
Better than the other one.
Yeah, it's definitely better. I'm in him. Oh, he's off. 2 spins and he was off.
Huh.
So, there's another scale. Pretty good hit. Actually bent. Look at it, actually bent the head.
Wow.
I'm guessing I was only stuck on that one, but still. Alright, we're back in the truck. We covered 3 miles in the boat on that drain and saw 0 goldfish. And I would say we saw at least 20, if not 30 of them in there last week. So whether it's just the weather change and they're down deep, who knows. Had a couple carp opportunities. Really wasn't impressed with the 5-prong head. One of the prongs came out. It's just not entering the water very good. It seems like the arrows that I'm shooting that on struggle to fly. So I'm going to stick with the 3-blade Triton style head and try to get a couple more fish with it. I did stick a carp he pulled off, but he was tail up when I stuck him, so I'm not even sure how good my hit was on him. But yeah, we're gonna go drive some more ditches and see if we can do a little bit more road shooting, and hopefully find a goldfish or two to shoot at today so we can really do a small arrow test. I didn't build these arrows to shoot carp with. If I see a carp, I have to shoot it. That's just how I'm wired. It's a fault. And I want to know if these have holding power. On my first fish, they did. Had another one I hit in the side, didn't hold. I had that one that I hit toward the tail, straight on, didn't hold. So it'll be interesting to see if I can get a few more opportunities for a few more experiments. I think that I'll have a better idea of what that head is capable of holding. On you. Oh, that was a... Oh, I got him! I got him! Remind me what we're calling this arrow?
Trident.
The Trident. I keep saying Triton, but I don't want him to fall off. I don't know how good he's hit. Oh, hold on, we're stuck. Whew, that's a nice goldfish. Look at that.
Good job.
Look at that. How we doing? Oh, I didn't even... Oh, I did stick him with a barb. Look at that.
Oh,
Thought he went between.
Pretty. I'm so jealous.
I'm sorry, B. Good job spotting him.
Oh, he's pretty. Good job.
Look at that goldfish point. The Trident. All right. And I shot it off of the yellow jacket. It seems to be flying really good off of the yellow jacket and the carbon arrow. Thanks, B.
Wait, let me get a picture.
Yeah, definitely. He moved before I shot. Oh, he's under my arrow. He's right under it. I felt a little pop. I'm not sure I didn't pull him off on the weeds. Did you see him?
Yeah.
He was right there. When I was pulling in, I got caught on the sticks or something. I felt a little pop. I thought, oh, is that a fish coming off? Look at it. Damn it.
You had it.
I had him on. He got caught in there. I popped him off. All right, another windy day. It started out nasty today. Turned into a pretty good day as far as sunshine went. We definitely had some adventure. We didn't see nearly as many goldfish as what I was hoping. Got a little bit of testing done, but not what I was hoping for. We just walked a ditch. We had lots and lots and lots of shots at carp, a couple at goldfish. I switched my arrows to a more traditional point after a couple long shots with the fork. It's just not a carp arrow, but I have high hopes that it's going to work really well for small fish. So, which it did today. Obviously, the one goldfish, I had a second goldfish on, and we were pulling back through some sticks, and I felt it pop off. And sure enough, when the weed clump got back there, the goldfish was still right there with my arrow, but then I don't know where he went. So had that one get off. But that was because of debris and obstruction, and it was not because of anything to do with the arrow. So I felt it went pretty well. We're tuckered out and gonna head home, and we'll talk more about this whole setup here in a little bit. All right, so not a bad first day of testing overall. Let's break down some of the good and some of the bad that happened. We'll start with the shafts. The white fiberglass is just has way too much flex in it. Shooting those on video, it was watching that tail. It was like it came off the bow and just started flexing sideways, and it just carried over. Just not going to work for this design. They're great for lots of bow fishing adventure. They're just not great for what we're working on here. The yellow jacket, stiffer. The yellow jacket works, but I'm going to move forward on the project using only carbon arrows. The one downside to the yellow jacket was when I was actually drilling the insert, we'll call it, to pin it. I broke 2 drill bits off inside of this in 2 different spots trying to pin this thing. I don't know if it's because of the spines, if they cause the bit to maybe go sideways when it gets in there, but this is actually pinned with 2 drill bits rather than putting a roll pin through it. So not going to move forward with that. We're going to move forward with carbon. This is much, much stiffer. In fact, when I try to flex this, the thing I'm amazed at is how much this section of the arrow stays straight even when I put pressure toward the outer edges. This handled the point really well, and it drove through the water when I'd shoot it. There'd be a big glug of water that came up after I shot this arrow. So my build's moving on. I'm going to use the carbon. One little wrinkle in this plan is that Muzzy and AMS, neither one is making a carbon arrow anymore like this. Muzzy discontinued it. This is a Muzzy arrow, and I'm going to have to try a different brand. I just ordered some. They're Matrix, and they're carbon outer, fiberglass inner, just like this. So hopefully those will work for my next builds that I'm going to play around with. Alright, so our points, I left the scales on this one because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 scales on this arrowhead, we'll call it spearhead, arrowhead, and 1 missing tine that would go in that hole right there. So lost a tine on the very first fish. Not enough holding power. With either head, really. This one is my preferred style. It entered the water better, but these barbs that are on here are just little tiny nicks in the metal. Yeah. And I need something with more holding power. So this is done. Not going to do this anymore. This is the idea we're going to move forward with, but hopefully with a better head. Now, I've got some parts ordered, and those will probably be here sometime next week. So after I get those, we'll check back in. We'll take a look at what we're going to move ahead with ideas. One other thing I wanted to add, I've got this string tied onto here, and this is a trick that I do on any of these heads that have a very coarse thread, because a coarse thread tends to vibrate loose easy. So I kept picking my bow up throughout the day and tightening the head before I could shoot. Putting a piece of string around it, just some bow fishing line. When you tighten it down, it gives that something to bite onto and lock. So that's why that's on there. My final build, I will utilize a lock washer because it's not like we'll need to loosen the head for anything. So once I get it set up, I'll actually Loctite it and use a lock washer on there for that. So I'm pretty encouraged because the big test was, will I have an arrow shaft that will support this idea? Because if I didn't have an arrow shaft to support this idea, the whole thing's out the window. And the carbon handled it really, really well. So I'm hoping that when my new toys like this show up in the mail, we can put together a couple more builds and go out and test those and hopefully find what we're looking for. Alright, well, it's been a few weeks now since we were able to put any time into this project. It took me 2 weeks just to get parts because a couple of the parts actually came from China. And then, you know, the last couple of weeks I've just been too busy to put any time into it. So here we are, getting caught up. And where we left off was with penetration and, no, it was with holding power issues. We needed better barbs, holding power. So this is the point that we were using before. It had these very small barbs cut into it. And what I'm replacing that with is two different options here. I really wish this one was longer. I'd like a longer shaft on it so I could get through those fish. But really nice weld job on this guy. I'll give you all this info later if these things work out on how to get a hold of these. I like those barbs. This one is a similar point to the other one, only it's been hammered out flat on the ends so that larger barbs can be cut into it, and I really like that idea too. I think I'm actually going to take this one back to the barn, heat these with propane and smack them with a chisel and try to open them up just a little bit more because I want as much holding power as possible. You know, we had some flight issues based on the stiffness of the shafts we were shooting. This guy weighs 1,368 grains. Don't freak out about that because we know that it flies well. And this guy is made out of a little bit heavier wire yet. So this one actually maxes out the 1,500 grain scale that I have, so I don't exactly know what the weight on this one is. So we need to shoot it on a very stiff arrow. So I tried to be really fair with the arrows, and I bought some stuff that I didn't even want to buy just so that we could show it all and make sure we're having an unbiased opinion here. The Muzzy shaft that I was using before, which is very stiff, carried that point really well. So I need something that's at least as stiff as this to handle my new experiment. And I said before that Muzzy was no longer making this shaft, which I'm very sad about. And I also said that AMS was not making a carbon shaft either. But to be fair, I bought one of their Lava Crux shafts. This Muzzy is a fiberglass filled carbon outer shaft, and the Lava Crux is kind of built the opposite direction of that. It is a carbon inner covered by fiberglass. Well, my immediate thought was, smaller diameter carbon is going to flex more. Why would I buy that? And sure enough, it does. But I wanted to be fair, so here it is. We'll still use this for other stuff, but just not for this project. So that left me a couple other carbon arrow things to try. This is the Hazard shaft. It is a weave, if I can get it to focus on that. It's a carbon and fiberglass weave, very interesting design. Realistically flexes about like the Yellow Jacket shaft that we tried before. So you could put some weight on it and it would probably work out, but it's not stiff enough for my build. So now I'm down to the only other carbon covered fiberglass filled shaft that I could find. Fiberglass filled carbon shaft, and this is the Matrix, and I bought this at Bowfishing Extreme. Same with the Hazard. The Matrix is very stiff. Look at that. Really put some bend on it and it just doesn't go anywhere. So I'm excited to do a build with this. We'll do our final build with this one, and we'll continue to test with the Muzzy. Now, I said before that I was going to use a lock washer on the next one. I changed my mind about that as soon as I got them, just because 8mm lock washer is just too large diameter on the outer edge, and it just is going to create more resistance as it goes through the water because that's larger diameter than the insert. So we're not going to use that. So the next step here is to put these together, to try out the new points and get out on the water and try to find some small fish. It's going to be harder now that we're in the middle of summer. It's going to be more difficult for me to find small fish to shoot at, but that's the plan, and we'll check back in when we hit the water with the new equipment. Alright, so we're rolling out. We're going to hit some water. It was one of those days where all of a sudden I just realized we had time. There's storms coming, and the next 3 days, who knows what's going to happen to the water conditions. So we're hitting it today. It's noon right now. I've got Caden and Gavin with me, and we're going to put these small fish arrows to the test. All right, we're set up to go. I didn't have time to tinker with this one as far as expanding the barbs, so we're shooting it as is. Shooting this lighter weight head off of the Yellow Jacket because we know it'll support it, and just in the time crunch, that's how we're doing it.
It's not a quill, the red horse. So, all right, so he pulled out, because I barely clipped him before and tore him open. But got him on the second shot again. And you know, I think this is working out pretty well. It's not perfect, but if I can shoot suckers and quillbacks with it, it's definitely worthy of shooting goldfish.
All right, so is it perfect? No. Does it work? Yes. Comparison of a sucker or a quillback to a goldfish probably really isn't fair, because the quillback and the sucker have a lot more fight in them than the goldfish does. So for a goldfish arrow, which is what I really want this to be used for, is probably a really good fit. The carp that we pulled in on that video, I don't want to confuse anybody. These are not for carp, unfortunately. The carp that we pulled in was injured or something. It had a great big growth on its side and it had zero fight. So Caden stuck that carp, pulled it in, the barbs held, but we hit a couple carp with these and they're just not going to hold. So I was impressed with the durability of this guy, because this little guy right here just didn't hold up. It's a lot of rocks in that river, it's gravel bottom, every single shot you're doing damage, and this one really held up quite well. At one point in the boat we took a screwdriver and I was smacking that to try to get these barbs to bend out just a little bit to get a little bit more holding power out of it. We modified the barbs on the final build, and I guess we'll talk about that now. Let's talk about that final build, that final arrow. So we'll start with a point, and I'll show you where I got it from. This was an eBay deal from a seller in China, and we took that point, put it in the vise, heated it red hot with propane, hit it with a steel chisel, and opened those barbs up so that we have a little bit more holding power. The insert, you know, this is going to be the toughest thing for you guys to find, so I'm just going to give it to you. This is just because I appreciate you watching the video. This is what it is. I got this. It's an M8 coupling nut, round coupling nut, 1.5 inch length, and I got it from bellmetric.com. I had to search and search and search to find something like this. And, you know, the only other 1.5 inch coupling nuts I could find were these great big things that weigh almost 600 grains just for that. And this guy's coming in around 236, which is, you know, I mean, it's heavy, but it's not 600 grains heavy. They have these in several different lengths, so if you want something lighter, you could get something shorter. But first we drilled the insert out. We drilled the insert out on one end with a 5/16 bit to match the shaft diameter and screwed the two together so that I could line it up on the shaft vertically. So then from there used a Gorilla Glue epoxy. I did not use the Gorilla Glue epoxy in the last video. The epoxy that melded was a different brand. I don't want to say it because I don't want to bash anyone, but building a bow fishing bow on a budget. If you haven't checked that video out, we had epoxy melt in that on a very, very hot, high 90-degree day when it was in the back of the truck well over 100 degrees. So anyway, Gorilla Glue epoxy. Once that started to set up, we drilled it out for a 3/32 roll pin. You can get them a lot of places. If you want to get it from a bow fishing supplier, Muddy Flats has these very inexpensively, and you can pick them up there. Glue that on the epoxy, pin it. The shaft is a matrix shaft from bowfishingextreme.com. We cut this down to 29 inches rather than the standard 32, just to make it a little bit stiffer yet, and with my draw, 29 is fine for my bow. The AMS safety slide that is on here is also from bowfishingextreme.com. And then once we were getting it all together, what I did is I lined this up. When I epoxied it on, I lined it up with the hole in the shaft so everything could be vertical, so I could have vertical barbs going into the water. Down here to our Nock, we epoxied a Nock on here. This is a Arizona Z-Nock, and the Z-Nock has a reputation for having a really good bite on the string and a really good hold. So let's face it, this is not your standard bow fishing arrow. This is a lot of weight we're talking about on the string. So I wanted something that would really hold, and I'm hoping that this works out. The Arizona Z-Nock, you can also find these at Muddy Flats. So there you go. There's our build. I'm really excited about it. We already shot this one in the water. This is the one that Caden pulled in the carp with. So we put it on the grinder, just the tips, because they were kind of bent up, and got them sharp again, which I don't know if I can get that to focus. Probably not. So a lot of you are a lot better at working with metal than I am. So if you like this idea, if you've made it this far in the video, I'm assuming you're probably thinking, I'm going to build something like that too. So I'm sure that what you're going to build is probably even cooler than what I came up with. I'm going to keep working on it. I'm excited about the idea. In fact, I've got something new right now. This is my next trial and error right there. So, looking forward to being able to get out on the water with that sometime, to play around some more with this small fish arrow idea. So, hopefully you like this video. Hopefully you got some ideas on how to build your own. And I guess with that said, we'll wrap this one up. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.